This edition of MacVoices is supported by you, our viewers and listeners, through our new Patreon campaign. If you get value from MacVoices, please consider helping support the show by visiting patreon.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is the very first show on our road to Macstock, other than talking to organizer Mike Potter, of course. We hope you will join us in July in Woodstock, Illinois for Macstock. It's going to be a great time. It always is. But not just that. This year, Macstock has a theme. The theme is productivity, and so that's what all the talks are going to be about. And so the Road to Macstock, we'll be talking to as many speakers as we can possibly get a hold of to give you an idea of what kind of topics are going to be covered at Macstock along those lines, and what you can expect to hear and why you should come. So when I started the series, or figured, okay, it's time to get down to this and do it, I wanted to start out slow and sedate and calm. And that's why I couldn't think of anybody more slow and sedate and calm than Kelly Guimont. Kelly, welcome.
I think that's the closest I have been to slow and calm and sedate ever in the history of English.
Well, you know, it's going to be tough to follow you, Kelly, but I figured, well, we'll get started this way and kind of go from there. Hey, it's great to see you.
You got to swing for the fences, right?
Yeah, it's great to see you.
It's really nice to be on the show. I'm always thrilled to bits when you send me an email and ask me if I could come do something for MacVoices. It's always great.
Well, and this one is especially good because it's not just MacVoices, but it's also Macstock. I know that you haven't come before, I don't think, but I know you've wanted to come every year.
I was actually gunning to come to the first one. I had a ticket and everything, and I thought it was a super great idea. I told everybody I was going to be there, and 2 days before Macstock, I blew out my knee and could go nowhere and do nothing.
Ooh.
So I only got to I got to go to the barbecue because somebody FaceTimed me and carried me around and said hi to everybody. And I'm like, and I would point it at my knee and go, this is why I'm not here, because it's the size of a basketball. And yeah. So I'm here instead of there, and I'm really sad about it. So every year the timing somehow gets away from me. But this year I finally get to go.
Well, and not only are you going to be there as an attendee, but you're there as a speaker as well, which I'm really excited about.
Well, you're excited because you know the topic of my talk. So I'm going to be there speaking about TextExpander. And the way the talks are structured this year, there's like kind of a high level view, and then there's a little deeper dive as sort of a second talk. And so I'm going to be talking about the basics of TextExpander in the first one, some of the things that you can do with the little buttons in the editing bar, and then on day 2 I'm going to dig into a little bit more stuff, some of the interesting things that you can do with TextExpander, including AppleScript and JavaScript, and calling some script, having it run some sort of calculation, spit out a value, and then you can use that as part of a snippet when you go to enter your text into whatever that thing might be.
So you and I both know, and folks that listen to the show know, I'm a huge TextExpander fan. It's absolutely my most used utility. And the thing that I think is the most interesting about it, and I will be very anxious to see how you approach it, is it's one of those utilities you can fire up and you can start being useful with it probably in about 2.5 minutes, if that. But if you dig deeper, you also can do so much more with it. And I guarantee you probably know a lot of things I don't about it because my needs have not necessarily gone there, or I haven't recognized I have those needs that TextExpander can solve. But some of the second part should that be intimidating to folks? Because some of the things you just spouted out sound suspiciously like programming.
Well, they do. But part of what's great about it is that specifically if you're using JavaScript, there's a lot of things out there that are pieces of JavaScript that you can run to get something. A really common one that we have that is a good example of what JavaScript can do is you can have a snippet that includes the date, but say you want to talk about the date in a sentence. So you don't want to say January 25, you want to say January 25th. So you want to have the TH at the end, or the ND at the end, or the RD at the end, or the ST. Like every date has a different like text suffix that you put at the end of it. So there's a JavaScript snippet that you can use that will take today's date. Like if say you want it to be today, for example, so it's the 10th, so you need the TH at the end. So it will go, what's today's date? Today's date comes back as 10. Okay, I know what comes after 10 is TH. So then when you expand your snippet, it automatically adds the TH to the end of that to show that it's today. So instead of having to figure out how to juggle your grammar so that you can say something so that you don't have to put that on the end because you don't know what it's going to be every time, you can let JavaScript like outsource all of that information for you, and then you can just write it as a sentence.
Got it. Okay. So that doesn't sound like it should be too intimidating, you know.
No.
And folks, if you think it is intimidating, well, come to Kelly's session, because if there's anybody that can make things unintimidating, it's Kelly. So no question. Kelly, I know Mike put out the call for talk proposals, and you know, so you submitted this. It might be obvious to you and me, but why specifically did you decide to go with TextExpander?
Well, part of it is because I work for Smile Software, full disclosure. I do TextExpander support for Smile. And partly because specifically when it comes to TextExpander, and I think probably lots of utilities that sound like a boring thing, but people really like you type a small bit of text and it turns into something much more. Like that doesn't sound like a very exciting app to use, right? But people who use it really there are people who use it who really love it. Sort of like people who use OmniFocus or use Evernote. You know, like when you describe those apps, like on the most basic terms of what it is what their function is, it doesn't sound very exciting or very interesting. But once you get somebody and unlock the part that's useful to them, it's pretty great. So I started using TextExpander many, many years ago. It's been, you know, civilizations on the internet have risen and fallen in the amount of time I've owned TextExpander. And I showed it to Mr. Kelly and explained it to him and, you know, what it was and how it worked and everything. And then when it was available for iOS, you know, picked it up and was using it there. And somebody asked him one time, like, what it was, or, you know, what's that on your phone, that orange icon, you know, whatever. And I remember him saying, you know, on your phone, how you have to enter your email address all the time and you get it wrong? Yeah, this fixes that. And like when you can distill it down to something like that, that's probably my favorite thing about it is if I lay out that piece of text really nicely once, I never have to do it again. And every time I send it, I know it's correct. Because you can go run all of that text through spell checker, Grammarly, whatever you want to do, and have it all set up the way that you want it to be, and then turn that into a snippet. And then every time you send it out, it's been spell checked. It's been, you know, all the grammar has been checked. Like however much effort you put into that piece of text, you only have to do it one time, and then you can use that text over and over and over again. So for me, that's one of the things that's great about it. But also my job is sending loads of text out to people all day long. So having the opportunity to show other people for me is really great. And partly because I like to be able to help everybody save time. I like to help people, you know, particularly like with typos and stuff, you know, people worry about that, particularly like if you're on a mobile device, being able to type something accurately. And partly because when I go to conferences and I meet people and I give a talk like this, inevitably every time someone comes up and says, I have this snippet that does this other thing, and it's the coolest thing. And so I get like, it's a little bit selfish because I get my own sort of, that's really cool. Like somebody showed me, I have a snippet and it's formatted as just the contents of the clipboard, plain text. So whatever it was I copied and whatever weird font choices or spacing or indentation or any of that, like whatever it has, if I copy it and I use this snippet, it spits the whole thing out as plain text. It strips all that formatting away. So sometimes you need something and it's in 3 different fonts or one of them's Comic Sans or whatever, and you can copy that. I know it hurts a little. You can copy that and then you can spit it out again and just get the text part, which is the important part. And I use that so much. So like getting small tips like that, building your own autocorrect library, like all of those things are really great things that that TextExpander gives you the opportunity to do, because TextExpander will learn a lot faster than the keyboard on your phone which words you spell wrong all the time. And you probably already know what they are. So make your little snippet group of like those 5 words. And then even if you get them wrong on your phone, they're going to automatically expand out into the right word. And you can be more accurate on your phone. And you can change that signature to something cool instead of please excuse typos. I'm on my mobile. Like no one ever has to know because everything you send out will be right.
Okay, lots of little things in there. I just want to make sure the folks heard, because you said them, but you kind of went over them. First of all, the autocorrect thing is not just for, making things right, but inevitably there are those things that we all just for some reason can't keep in our heads properly, the proper spelling. And so you can set up a snippet that will correct. If you type it wrong the way you usually do, it will fix it. And that to me has been invaluable. Another thing that is, and especially in the tech world, because the tech world is crazy with capitalizations and, capitals in the middle of titles and everything.
Or not.
Or not, yeah.
That company name is all lowercase.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's, this is a great way, because forever people are miscapitalizing GarageBand, FileMaker, Macworld, MacVoices, Macstock. It's so if you care about it, and you should care about it, because those are somebody's brands, and frankly, by messing those up, you just look dumb. So yeah, I'm right there with you. But I did want to ask you, and I'm glad you brought up the phone thing, because is your talk going to cover both the desktop version of TextExpander and the iOS version?
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about both.
Okay.
Mostly desktop, because that's where a lot of people find the value in it. But I am going to talk about mobile and some of the ways that it can help you on mobile. Some of the things that you can do on mobile, like some of the more complex stuff doesn't work 100% of the time in 100% of applications. So, making sure that you have what you need the way that you need it. So. Right.
But you know what? I get frustrated with folks who say, well, it doesn't work the same on both platforms. And I'm not talking just TextExpander, just, things in general. And it's like, it shouldn't.
No, they don't, because they're not the same platform.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it'd work the same.
Yeah. I'm not going to use a bulldozer to fix a leak at my bathtub. It's just not going to do it. But if I want to remodel the house, there's a chance that the bulldozer might be involved. And so I want the right tool for the right job. And that's one thing that I see companies that try to force all those functions down into the iOS version, and they're confusing at best. They don't work at worst, and they make me want to run the other way.
So. Or worse, go find something else and use it instead, because it's something that makes sense. Maybe it doesn't have this feature, but I didn't need that feature all the time anyway. I've totally been where you are with the App Store. Yeah. They said this app did everything on iOS that it did on macOS. And if it does, I can't figure out how. And I don't need it to do 100% of those things. I needed it to do like 60% of those things, because I know if I really need to dig into it and do some sort of serious something, I'm going to have to do it on my computer because of what my computer has available as interface and functionality and things that I can do. So if I need to do it on my phone or on my iPad, then I know it's going to work a little differently, because iOS is a little different from macOS and on and on. So making that possible, like, mostly it just makes me frustrated. And then I just go, okay, I'm going to go back to the App Store and look for, apps like this one, because somebody else is going to have one that does the part I need that I can actually figure out.
Right.
I don't need it to be 100%. And I understand that there are times when that is a thing that is necessary, but for a lot of stuff, it's really not. And if you sit down and be a little technologically honest, it's a lot easier to do. It's a lot easier to use the 60% or the 80% app that you can figure out than it is to try to figure out the one that doesn't work.
Make note, folks. I think Kelly just coined a new phrase: technologically honest, and I really like that, because I think your point is so well taken. What are we, 7, 8, 9 years now into the App Store, and true iOS apps, and we've gotten past that point of everything being a one-trick pony. It only does one thing. And we have gone through part of a phase, and I feel like we're still going through it, where people are trying to just cram every single feature into the iOS apps. And we have those developers who are taking a measured approach, being technologically honest, and saying, okay, these are the features that most people are going to use most of the time and that we can implement properly on on iOS. And those are the developers I love to have on the show. I love to talk to. I love to use their products because they're thinking. They're not just slamming stuff together and trying to get it out there to be able to say, oh yeah, we have it too.
Yeah, thoughtful design to me is really important. It's that's the difference between somebody who adds a feature because it sounds good and somebody who adds a feature because they would like to have it themselves using that app on that iPhone or that iPad. I want it to do this, so I'm going, and it's my app, so I have the power to make that a thing that's possible. It's usually really easy to tell who is building something that they actually use every day, and who's maybe going this. A lot of people have released an app that has this, so we should add that too. And they're very different things, so you can really tell like who those developers are, and I am more than happy to support them. Yes, you made one that it looks like you actually use and care about, and it matters to you that I can use it. And so, yes, I'm glad to pay you for that because it makes my phone more useful, and that's great.
Yeah, I would much rather have 3 or 4 apps that do those individual things really well, even if I have to pass between and around and through them, than to get that one app that does 25 things. 4 of which are those things, and they don't do it well.
Right.
So, and TextExpander, this is germane to TextExpander because, like we said at the outset, TextExpander can be very deep if you want it to be, but it doesn't have to be, and it still can be wildly useful and wildly productive if you just learn no kidding. You need to know about enough in 3 minutes. You can make TextExpander really popular, and that may be all you ever need. But if you need
and a
more,
lot of people use, maybe 5 snippets. But when you use them all day long, in the limited contact that you have with generating text for people or whatever, it's really great. And then, there's a lot of people who maybe expand out of that to like 1 or 2 more snippets. The one that I use as a really common example is invoices or billing. You've got whatever your invoicing billing workflow is, and then it's time for you to send all that stuff out and go, hey, it's time to pay me. So create your message, have your nice little email with your snippet, and have it, and you can automatically include the date. So if invoices are always due 2 weeks from today or 15 days from today, you don't have to do that math anymore. TextExpander has that built in to do it for you. So you don't have to go to the calendar and figure it out and count back and carry the 2 and whatever. You can just take it and hit the snippet and expand it, and you can add an Apple script at the end so that then once it spits out the snippet, it will pop up and go, what's the attachment you want to add? Then you add your attachment and you're done. And you don't have to spend a bunch of time working out what the day is or anything like that. So it's a very easy thing to do. And, the tip, I will give everybody a freebie right now. The tip I have, if you are looking for something that you think TextExpander might be useful for, the first place to look for that is your outbox. And go look in your email at the email that you send, and you will find very quickly the ones that you send over and over again, whether it's invoicing or a weekly report or a timesheet or a whatever, you're going to find those in there pretty quickly. I send this message all the time. Or you've got that text edit document or that Word document that you've always got open in the background that you go copy stuff out of and paste in. You can turn all of that into TextExpander snippets too. Those are the first places I would say to mine for snippet inspiration.
I would not have thought of exactly that approach, but you're absolutely right, because in today's world, that is probably the one thing that still is just so much text-based is email. And if you send a lot of email, that's a great tip, Kelly. That really is. I hadn't thought about it. I got to go and look because, and my examples are, that every single version of MacVoices, every single edition, involves TextExpander because I have a lot of the boilerplate that we put, to tell folks how to reach us and how to get in touch with us. I have a lot of the regular guest bios in TextExpander, so just a couple keystrokes, and I've got the full bio sliding in there. It's things for posting to the different online services. I mean, it just makes sense, And the number of times I would have to type MacVoices. Just that word is crazy, and so one little three-letter snippet, and it expands out, and it's always right. It's always capitalized right, and it really does. That doesn't sound like a huge thing, but just that a snippet can be.
Oh, but it is.
Yeah, a snippet, a one-word snippet can be super useful, and a 20-page snippet can be equally useful. It just depends on what you're doing.
And if you think about. If you are not working for yourself, if you work for a company, if you work for yourself, think of the company name you use or the app that you build or whatever, and think about how many times a day you type that, and think about how many times a day you type it too fast or you're distracted and you get it wrong and it comes back on you. I don't know. I'm not sure that I can tell you how many times a day I type TextExpander, but I don't. Well, okay, how many times it is in emails that I send? I will say that. But I type capital TX space, and I get TextExpander every time, and I don't have to slow down. And part of the reason that I'm particularly fond of something like that is because I type over 100 words a minute, and so by the time I've figured out that I screwed that up, I'm 3 or 4 words down the line, and I have to go all the way back and correct and sort it all out. And so it's hard when there's mistakes. So that little autocorrect library is super fantastic for, making sure those things are right and making sure I'm not typing some mutation of TextExpander or of Mac OS, because I spent a lot of years typing capital MAC space OS, and it's not that anymore. Yep. So now when I type that, it expands into the new lowercase Mac, capital OS. So now I don't have to worry about it. Even if I do type it wrong, it comes out right.
Right. You said something there I wanted to go back to, and I've completely lost it because it's such a useful thing. That I guess I can't stress that enough at how useful this is. But so can we? And I don't think if we're getting too much into the presentation, shut me down. But I am curious while we're discussing TextExpander.
Yeah.
Do you subscribe to the school that says I have to have like a leading? Oh, I know what it was. What do you use? What was your example for TextExpander?
I use capital T, lowercase x, space, and it's a case-sensitive snippet. So if I'm typing the abbreviation for the state of Texas, it's capital T, capital X. And if I'm typing something that has a T and an X next to each other in the middle of a word, having the space after the X makes it so that it doesn't expand in the middle of whatever I'm typing.
Got it. Okay, so that's exactly where I was going. I was going to ask, do you subscribe to the school that says I need to have some kind of leading character to trigger? Some folks I know use X. Sometimes they use a semicolon, but it sounds like you don't subscribe to that. You're just happy to use capitals or just whatever you think you can remember.
Yeah, for me, it's personal stuff. I didn't spend a lot of time with there's a take control book. I didn't spend a lot of time reading that, and I didn't spend a lot of time. There weren't videos at that point to walk through all the stuff that we were doing. So I just sort of figured it out on my own. So yeah, I'm going to type this. So I was never a person who started with a semicolon, but a semicolon is a really great tip because if you're primarily on a desktop, a semicolon never has anything immediately following it. A semicolon always has a space because it's a punctuation that you can use. So if you type a semicolon with letters next to it, then that's a good way to sort of keep in your mind, that's a TextExpander snippet. Where that falls over is now that TextExpander is available on mobile, having to flip your keyboard to the punctuation keyboard can be aggravational, or if you're using very short snippets, it doesn't save you much time by the time you flip and flip back. So that's where a lot of QQ or XX comes from. That I know a lot of people are using that as an abbreviation now, and then have moved to that on the desktop and just gone, I shifted everything over. Now all of my snippets use XX or QQ, just everywhere. So I don't have to think about which keyboard I'm typing on. I can just expand all my snippets how I want.
Yeah, I had that. I started out with the semicolon, and when the mobile came along, I had to retrain myself to do my favorite leading one is just X, because there are not a whole lot of words that I type frequently that start with X,
Right.
and so it's X and then a letter or two, and it's good to go. Or, and I don't mind telling some of my secrets in the case of like the guest bios, I may not. It would be nice to do XKG for Kelly Guimont, but there may be other things. And since that's not a frequently used thing, but it is also it's used frequently enough that I'll just do X Kelly Guimont, all one word, and then your bio pops out. And so, the whole idea of you're not going to have to memorize a lot of cryptic things. You can make them as cryptic as you want, or you can make them as direct as you want. And again, that's the flexibility and power of TextExpander that I just love so much.
Because even if you're typing my whole name, it's still a lot less than the paragraph that you have for a bio, or the sentences that you have for the bio. That's still, So that's the other thing I think sometimes you don't think about. And luckily you can get statistics if you use TextExpander over time. You can look at your stats and see what you're saving. And on average, I use it for loads of stuff, but primarily I use it for work things. And I save about, I'm ballparking here, but it comes out to be just over a workday a month that I save in that. So TextExpander is currently, the current version is a subscription service. And so that's a thing to think about is if it's saving you, say it's saving you 8 hours a month, that's a whole workday every month that you could spend on other stuff because you've saved all that time with these snippets that you use. So what do you make in a day? And then think about, is it worth having, is it worth paying a small amount of that time, of that entire day's work, in order to have TextExpander? I think sometimes that gets lost in the principle of you shouldn't have a subscription kind of a thing. And so that's a thing that I always want to try to point out. Think about what you make an hour, and then think about how much TextExpander saves you for an hour. How many hours TextExpander saves you. And so think about you got to spend all of that time coding or designing or lecturing or whatever it is that your job actually is that isn't, because I know not everybody has my job, which is my job is to communicate via email with lots of people all day long. So if you're not that person and the point of your job is something else, you're like an Uber driver or a Lyft driver, or you're a teacher or you're a real estate agent or whatever it is, the bulk of your day is spent doing stuff that is not email or form letters or boilerplate things. If you're a lawyer, then the bulk of your day is not that. You deal with a lot of text, but it's your day is, helping people and going to court and filing things and doing all of that. And so having something that helps compress some of those admin things that aren't the part that you want to be doing really helps free you up to do all that other stuff too. And I think sometimes that piece gets lost in the conversation of license versus subscription and how all of that shakes out.
Yeah, and we're treading dangerously close to something that I'm going to be talking about in my talk at Macstock. Just a small piece of it is going to be a little bit addressing the issue of subscriptions and how to value them. But I agree with you. It's we're fast turning into this black-white subscription bad, license good, and I don't see it that way for lots of reasons, and that's a whole other show. But
when you do that one, I look forward to the email that you probably sent using TextExpander to invite me to come on and talk about it.
You got it. I also wanted to take us the whole way back to the beginning before we wrap up, and something you said that maybe folks don't know that about you, that you work for Smile. You do TextExpander support. So this is like coming to a session with one of the experts, because to do support, you have to know the program just as well as the people that write it. If maybe even a little better.
Well, I have to know the parts that are confusing to people, and I have to know the parts that sometimes people think might be harder to use and find a way to explain them, because you don't necessarily have somebody sitting with you to walk through some of this with you. And like sometimes, you install something. Like just yesterday, I helped my mom get set up with a new computer. And so I was walking her through some of the stuff that's different now on the machine that she has, as opposed to the one she had that she bought 8 years ago. So helping her with that, she had me to sit there and go, well, what about this? And how does that work? And if I click here, what does it do? And not everybody gets that with something. Maybe they hear TextExpander as a sponsor of a podcast, or they see that there are videos available. Like, they search for something on YouTube and find somebody who talked about TextExpander and how it was great. And so they decide to try it out. And if you want to sit down and try it out, it sometimes can be a little intimidating to get this blank slate of like, look at all the possibility available to you. And so it's nice to have somebody walk through, like, here's what start here, like use your email address, you use your email address all the time. Or like me, I have more than one. And so which one is the one that needs to go there, and make sure that I type the right thing all the way through, because sometimes I've typed like the first half of an email address, but then, that's not the one I have at Gmail, but I threw gmail.com on the end because I wasn't thinking about it because somebody else asked me a question or I was doing something else. I'm in line at the grocery store and I'm trying to send something and I fill out the form and I put the wrong email address. And now, like, what do? That email has gone off somewhere into the ether forever. Getting to sort that stuff out is sometimes really helpful. So I like being able to make TextExpander approachable, because it's up to you to figure out the part that's useful to you. But if I can tell you how all of these things work and how all these pieces are together, it's much easier for you to find that thing that, oh, I have this that I send all the time, or this is a thing that I type wrong constantly, or whatever it is. And being able to find that is the part that's super helpful. And that's the thing that I really like in all of this, is that everybody comes to TextExpander with a different workflow and a different tool set and a different task list. And so being able to find the places where that fits together for you personally is the part that I like to help connect people with. Like, did you know this clipboard thing? I use the clipboard all the time and I can just spit that out in the middle. Oh, that's amazing. That's super great. Like, not everybody understands that you can just use the clipboard that way, or, whatever. So helping find those places and shaving off those rough spots is a thing that I really like doing.
Well, and you do it well, no question.
Thank you.
So again, Woodstock, Illinois in July. I'll be there. You'll be there. A lot of our friends will be there. There will be
karaoke.
Oh boy. Okay. We'll talk about that. Not sure anybody's ready to hear at least one of us on stage, and I'm not going to say which one. So.
Oh, I think they're ready.
I don't think they're ready. No. Kelly, where else between now and then, where can folks find you? Because I know that, and also, folks, if you have TextExpander questions, bring them to Macstock. I'm sure Kelly will help you with them. But
I will do my best.
Kelly, where can folks find you?
Well, you can find me on Twitter. You should find me on micro.blog. I am Verso in both places. You can find me doing stuff with App Camp for Girls. You will be able to find me at WWDC this year. I have a ticket. I'm actually attending. And I will be there as part of the App Camp contingent. There's a party on Wednesday night for App Camp for Girls. It's one of our big fundraisers of the year, the one we do at WWDC. You will get to see me there because not only will I be at the party, but the band playing the party is James Dempsey and the Breakpoints, and I have been nominated as a conditional breakpoint this year, so you will see me on stage singing.
All right, congratulations.
And playing the ukulele. So I'm very excited. I can't keep the smile off my face when I talk about it because I'm so excited that I get to do it again. You can find me on the Incomparable Podcast Network, where I have a show about Westworld with Don Melton. And we talk about it a lot. And beyond that, generally you can just sort of find me around. Obviously, I'm not too hard to track down.
Great. Well, I didn't know about WWDC, so I'll get to see you there. Then I'll get to see you again in Chicago. Cool.
I'm so excited.
Cool.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Great. Kelly, thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Chuck.
Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Folks, one more time, Macstock2018.com is where you want to go. If you use the code MacVoices, you get a special discount that is the best discount out there that you're going to find. I really hope you'll come. I know Kelly hopes you'll come. You will have a great time. You will learn a lot. And it doesn't matter which one of those you put in first priority, both are going to happen. So see you there. Until the next time, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our MacVoices Facebook group and get more out of your Apple Tech with MacVoices magazine, free on Flipboard. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us at patreon.com/MacVoices and join these folks who help keep MacVoices coming to you. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.
Eat some lunch in there, and I have a hard out in an hour to get a massage. So,
whoa, hold it. I want to hit the record button on that one. Say that again. You have a hard out in an hour to get a massage.
Yes, I have a hard out in an hour to get a massage, which includes some acupuncture because I've screwed something up in my shoulder and it's getting fixed.
Oh, okay.
So,
but that may be an outtake. I want you to know right there. I have a hard out in an hour to get a massage.